Hello and welcome to the Hancock Creative Podcast. I'm Sean Hancock.
And I'm Missy Hancock.
And I'm Vinton Bain.
Yay!
And today we're going to be talking about jealousy / envy.
Yes, we are. The reason we wanted to talk about this was my brainchild, so I'll just apologize right up front. No, because last summer, I think it was, whenever they first started promoting the Big Magic book that Elizabeth Gilbert put out, I saw the cover in Barnes & Noble window as I was walking into the store and went, well, for the love of God. I think I probably actually said curse words and was so irritated, so angry, like inside myself. Why are you guys laughing at me?
Because you can cuss.
It's an explicit podcast.
Okay.
You're supposed to take the opportunities to say dirty words.
Frickety frack. No. No.
That doesn't count.
So, no, I don't really remember I don't remember if I said anything. I think I just was boiling inside, but I saw it and I was like so mad because I always refer to art as magic. I always refer to writing as magic. Like there's this, because if you're making it and doing it and engaged in the activity of creativity, it feels magical sometimes. And I just I like magic. I think I like it. I like Harry Potter. I especially even pretend magic.
I especially like it whenever you tell people we're making magic right now.
Yeah,
it's I can't imagine what they're thinking is going on.
I do. I'll use that expression. Making
I'm very
magic.
against witchcraft. We're not making magic right now, Missy Hancock.
Okay, I'm sorry. But anyway,
imagine that's what they're saying.
So her use of the word magic in the title was like, well, for crying out loud, she's using, that's what I call it.
That's
and
my thing.
Also, yeah, that's my thing. Which, right, magic. Obviously, that's not my word. I don't own that word. So that in itself was ridiculous. But then the subtitle is Creative Living Beyond Fear. And creative living in general has been a buzzword for us for, I don't know, the last couple of decades. and then the Beyond Fear, just everything about it annoyed me because darn it, it was the book I should have written. And I was like, she wrote my book. And that's asinine, but that's how I felt inside. And so, of course, as any good, I would say red-blooded American, I don't know what the hell that has to do with anything. As any good red-blooded American would do, I boycotted that book. For the love of God, I thought.
Shot the person that wrote it.
No.
Not redneck American.
Not do that. No. So I refused to read it for a long time. It released, and it's like, I needed this book. I have been so dry. I haven't written a book. I've written 2 books in total. I used to write every day for years and years and years. I wrote every day. And it's been, 2.5 years since I released a book, finished a book. And I just have been so dry that I needed to read this book. But I was withholding it from myself because of jealousy. Mm-hmm. And so, because we were doing the podcast and we were needing different topics to talk about, I thought about, well, I could read that book and talk about jealousy.
Because you knew it was going to be good.
Because I knew I would be so damn jealous. And what's so beautiful about it is I'm not jealous. After reading it, I'm in love with it. It's a beautiful work of art. It's a really great, encouraging, just said so well. So I started reading it Sunday morning, and I'm sitting, we have a little loft thing that comes off of our bedroom. And so our bedroom was dark and Sean was still in bed and I was in the loft and I'm looking in there at him because I'm about a third of the way through the book. And it's like, I got to read this out loud. He's got to hear this stuff. And so I'm wide
awake looking at her.
I can't tell if his eyes are open.
To look in there to see me.
So I'm ogling him.
Just like, she's obviously trying to see if I'm awake. And
so he let me look for a long time.
I thought it was funny. Look at her looking at me.
So finally, what'd you ask me? It's like, what do you want?
What do you want?
I think something really loving like that, affectionate.
What do you want, woman?
Yeah, pretty much. So I said, I gotta read this to you. you got to hear this. This is so good. And so I said, are you in the mood to listen to me read? And he said, sure. And so I started reading it. So basically I read Big Magic in its entirety aloud to my husband on Sunday. And while he worked on a graphic novel, I'm going to go ahead and say you're doing it. So now you have to finish it.
Everyone knows.
It's out there.
And they're all expectant
Yes,
now.
and it's good too. I'm just telling you. But anyway.
I think it's quite the best to read out loud when your partner is working on an art project. I do it with Tessa pretty often. She'll be working on a painting, and I'll just come sit next to her and pull open the book and start reading out loud.
It's wonderful.
And I have no idea if she's hearing anything I'm saying.
Oh, she is. She totally is. Because usually when you're making art, especially visual art and painting and stuff, I always turn something on to listen to when I'm making art that way. So anyway, so we read it all day. It was beautiful. And I wasn't jealous at all because I was very happy that she had written it. There were so many things that were so much better than I would have put it, that I was like, she was supposed to write this book. I'm a jackass. Big surprise. I knew that about myself. So from here, we're going to go into jealousy because it is so hurtful to you as an artist. If you are hung up and trapped in jealousy, it's most likely a block for you. And it may be a block that you're choosing. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think you make a conscious choice to be jealous or be envious of someone. I don't think you're making a conscious choice, actually, to be critical. It just seems to be that's what comes out.
That's the
product if
of
you're
jealousy.
hanging on to envy of someone, I mean, I think that's a conscious choice. I think that you could easily let go of that if you wanted to. But sometimes people kind of like are comforted by it.
Well, often, I mean, I think Julia Cameron in Artist's Way, she refers to it as it's a mask for fear, that jealousy is a mask. And I think that was an interesting concept because it really kind of is. It's like, I'm afraid to move forward. I'm afraid to make the art I'm afraid to write this book. I'm afraid to whatever it is that you're wanting to create. And so you end up just being overly interested in what other people are doing. Being jealous of their success and looking at how many likes they got on Instagram. Did you see how many likes they got? And those kinds of things. Or no, they didn't. It's not likes on Instagram. It's hearts or whatever.
Monopoly.
If you count hearts, if you count likes, that's jealousy biting you in the ass.
And I think a lot of people could hide behind thinking it's a motivator. Like, oh, it motivates me to be better than that person. No, jealousy just makes you sit behind the computer and go, oh, they did that? I wanted to do that. Well, I guess I'll just give up now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it can. I will say one thing Julia Cameron says that I thought was brilliant, and it's a little along the motivator thing, but she uses it differently. It's like you can stop and sit there in that emotion of jealousy, or you can step back from it and say, I think she called it like a map. Jealousy will show you what you really care about. And her example was that she's a writer, but she never was jealous of women novelists. She'd read about a woman novelist's success and not think anything about it. But she realized that if a female playwright got any press, she was eaten up inside. It just angered her, and she said she was overly critical of them, and she'd, tear them to pieces, and she said she could stay there in that emotion, or she could step back from it and go, what does this mean? I think this is showing me, this is a map guiding me that I need to write a play. I feel this is
she's really a playwright inside. Or
inside, yeah.
But that's a choice, though. I mean, that you make. You can analyze your feelings, your jealousy, and determine, where to go from there. Same with anger or pain or whatever, in that, those emotions can be motivating, but they can also be crippling, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're choosing to be crippled, really.
Yes.
I mean, you have to take that opportunity to examine what's happening right now in me, and then you choose to,
You choose action.
Yeah,
I
choose to
mean,
be motivated. Really.
Yeah, you choose to. I mean, she said that after she wrote plays and became a female playwright, well, then suddenly she wasn't overly critical of these other playwrights. She was, it was camaraderie then. She was like one of the gang, and she was pulling for the other women, and that was insightful to me.
That speaks to something that I think jealousy also is. It's hatred for yourself for not doing something. Like, she was jealous of these playwrights because she hadn't done it even.
Yeah,
but she wanted to. I sometimes feel that. I'll look at actors who are my age or younger, and I'm like, oh, they're so famous now, and they're 5 years younger than me.
Yeah,
it's like I never really wanted to be an actor, but I did want to do something with my life. I'm like, oh, they have so much success at that age.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I doing with my life? It's like the jealousy I fear is just more like a self-critical, like, what have you done?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well,
yeah, and that's just as crippling if you turn on yourself in that way. Because I spent a lot of time doing that. I'll look people up on IMDb and like, how old are they? They're my age. It's like I spent way too much time looking at people's ages.
And then, well, and it's once you hit 45, man, you start feeling like a big fat failure because everybody, it's like, well, a lot of these people are younger than me. God damn, what have I been doing with my life?
And then you're like, they're a lot better looking than me at my age.
Oh, I know.
What's happening?
What's going on? So
all those millions of dollars they made at work.
Yeah. Cosmetics or whatever.
In Big Magic, she talks about, and it was about a fourth of the way in, I'm not sure, but she talks about how when she had the success with Eat, Pray, Love, how she would have people come up to her at the book signings and be angry and say, you wrote my book. That was the book I was supposed to write. You wrote my life, And it's just like, when I read that part, it just made me laugh because Sean pointed out, he said, well, probably a lot more people were jealous of the Eat, Pray, Love success. But I saw the Big Magic and just like, damn you, bitch. The way you said it was explicit. I get to say all the dirty words I want.
Not name calling.
Oh, well, I don't think she's a bitch. I just said I thought she was amazing. She just wrote a book that inspired the crap out of me.
You would recommend...
Yay, Elizabeth Gilbert.
You would recommend this book, I guess?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I'll take this time to do a little quick commercial. You should totally read it. If you're a creative person who even felt remotely inclined to click on and listen to this podcast, you would definitely enjoy this book.
This podcast brought to you by Big Magic. It's not.
It's not.
But, maybe they'll send us free books now.
Well, no, it is Big Magic in the sense, just not the book. We've already touched on this, but let's go into the critical thing, because basically the fruit of jealousy is, would you say, criticism? I mean, you sit there in your jealousy.
I think it could eventually lead to murder or something, but I think probably criticism is the most common place that it ends.
I think it gives it too much credit to call it the fruit. Oh, nice, juicy criticism.
Yes.
You refresh my soul.
Yeah, well, that's true. Maybe what would it be?
The spoiled fruit, maybe?
Yeah, something.
The spoiled fruit.
What comes out of jealousy is usually criticism. You start looking a little too closely at other people and judging their success and judging their work because they need you to judge.
Well, you can't. You're not working, and so you don't see any success in what you're doing. So you look at other people's success and start tearing it down because you're trying to elevate yourself by tearing other people, pulling other people's down or whatever.
Yeah. Just right the moment before we started recording this, I was wanting to see the release date of Big Magic. And so I was looking it up and I hit several different spots and no one's showing me the date. And I see Goodreads, open it up, first review, 2 stars, and somebody just waxing on and on 5 or 6 points of what they felt like was wrong about this book and an error in thinking. And I got so pissed and so it's like, I should not start this podcast so pissed at this person who has an opinion. It's fine for them to have an opinion. That's their right. But I just don't happen to agree with that opinion. But back to the whole critical thing. If you sit there and you're jealous and you're approaching something with jealousy and you're not pushing yourself past that place, then you get all critical. This is a Dave Eggers quote, and I love it so dearly because it addresses that critic thing that people do. And I have an unfortunately low tolerance for when people get real critical. I just have to leave the room because it just feels, ugh. It's like, really, do we have to sit here in this like poo of criticism? And it just feels like sitting in soup of poo. Or
You're talking about me, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Sometimes
You do like to be critical, but I don't know that yours is as motivated out of jealousy as just like,
no, my criticism is social criticisms.
yeah.
Mostly, not individuals.
He likes to say how a whole group of people have got it all freaking wrong.
I think that makes it sound a little worse than that.
sounds like I'm racist or
Oh,
something.
no, not like that. No, it's like
It's
more
the
like
system.
golfers or something like
It's
that,
the
or a system. Yeah.
It's the system.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
hate
you don't
the
like
systems
systems.
of
The
the
man.
world.
Yeah.
The
The man. He don't let, yeah. Okay. So anyway, here it is.
Or the woman.
Or the woman. Don't let the woman keep you down. That's right. Okay.
I'm just
'cause
trying to
we're
keep
equal.
it fair. Yeah.
Equality. That's right. All right. I'm reading this quote, damn it. Okay. Dave Eggers. Do not be critics, you people. I beg you. I was a critic, and I wish I could take it all back, because it came from a smelly and ignorant place in me, and spoke with a voice that was all rage and envy. Do not dismiss a book until you've written one, and do not dismiss a movie until you have made one, and do not dismiss a person until you have met them. It is a fuckload of work to be open-minded and generous and understanding and forgiving and accepting. But Christ, that is what matters. What matters is saying yes. Brilliant. Such a good point.
So I like that at the end. What matters is saying yes. That makes me think of the yes and rule in improv. And if you can live your life
By the yes
and rule, I
yeah.
think even Tina Fey, or was it Amy Poehler, one of them in their book,
Yeah.
suggests you do the yes and rule for a life philosophy.
Yeah, I think.
And I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
So tell them what the yes and rule
so
is.
the yes and rule, the yes and rule in improv is that whenever you're in the middle of improving with a partner, and you throw out something like, "Oh, I see that you've painted your toes red," or something like that. And
yes,
then,
and my fingernails too.
yes, exactly. And so it's always
Exactly.
yes.
Always
and.
go with it.
You always go with
So-
it.
And add on.
There is nothing shittier than being on stage and being like, "Oh, look at your cute little pug dog here." No, he died. And you're petting a dead dog. That's I mean, you can go with that.
That actually sounded really funny. I think that was a bad example. I
All
like
right.
that
That was
one.
actually
Maybe
pretty
better.
good. That was a good.
But it would ruin it if you were to say that I painted my toenails red. And I said, no, I
No.
didn't.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You're
And
right.
then there's
That's
no
a better
and. You
example.
just cut it off. No, I didn't.
No, I didn't. And
kills the
And
whole
then the other
scene.
person has to come up with something else. Like, oh, well, I see you're wearing a hat. No, I'm not.
no, I'm not. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that could be a scene in itself, but this is going to get old real
Well,
quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
terrible.
very entertaining, and
It
it's
doesn't move forward.
Such a freaking turdy thing
But you
for the
can-
first person to do.
You can live your life using the yes and philosophy or the no, I'm not philosophy.
Yeah.
And so if you look at something and you're like, feel this envy, then you choose yes and. It's like, yes, that's great that they did that. And I can too. Or something like that.
And I think I'm going to go ahead and do this thing.
Yeah. I don't know if that was a good
Yeah, no, it is a
example
good
or what,
thing.
but
Positivity
I
is
like-
always better than negativity.
Yeah, I like that you say yes, because creativity builds on yes. It doesn't build on no very well.
Oh, yeah.
True.
That is true.
So
Deep thoughts. There you have it.
Deep
Okay.
Thoughts with Sean Hancock will return.
So what I was going to say is after... In the Big Magic, after she said that people will say, I was definitely planning to write that book someday, which I can't imagine going to a book signing and looking in the author's face and saying, you stole my book. That's my... I mean, I guess people
That's
are
'cause
that audacious.
You're not an ass.
Well, I am a little bit of an ass, but I wouldn't do that.
I do like that story's in there, and it's like, that's kind of your story.
It's exactly my
It's like
story.
Staring her in the
Oh,
It made me. I think
she knows about me.
I think that's what's so hilarious is I think that's about where I was when I was like, oh shit, I got to read this to Sean. Because it was like, oh my gosh. And it just called me out right at the beginning on the jealousy thing. And I mean, I loved it. But she says her response in the story, and I'll just read just a little brief paragraph here. It says, but what can I say? What do I know about that stranger's life? From my perspective, I found an unattended idea lying around and I ran away with it. While it is true that I got lucky with Eat, Pray, Love, without a doubt, I got exceedingly lucky, it is also true that I worked on that book like a maniac. I spun myself like a dervish around that idea. Once it entered my consciousness, I didn't let it out of my sight for a moment, not until the book was good and finished. And that's the yes. You say yes. That's what Dave Eggers was saying. Say yes. The yes is doing the work. The yes is like, what am I eating up inside about? Oh, then I better do something about that.
Yeah, I think Tessa kind of broke me of that attitude when we used to go to museums and I would look at like a minimalist piece of artwork. It was just like a white canvas with a blue square. I'd go, why is that famous? I can do that. And she'd go, well, why don't you? Like, literally like snarky, like look at me with like these mean eyes. Why don't you do it then? If you have that attitude. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. And she's like, well, stop criticizing the people who do then.
Excellent.
I'm like,
I would just like to point out that Tessa
Okay.
is our daughter. Oh yeah, that's right. We raised that brain. Just kidding.
That mean little child.
I still don't understand why some minimalist artwork is out there, but I have a better attitude about it now.
Bet you're not such a hater. You know, exactly.
So can we talk a little bit about creative waves? It doesn't have anything to do with jealousy necessarily, but I think it's interesting to touch on because she does talk about it in the book. And she doesn't refer to this. That's just what we've
always
to
called
as.
it waves, and we've
Because
noticed
it feels like that creative ideas come in waves, almost like if you're swimming on the beach or something and then this wave comes in, and so it affects more than one person.
Yeah.
So,
and so
ideas
this
come to
wave
you.
is this one thought, this one.
Yeah,
you know.
so it's like you'll notice that there'll be people who have the same idea and they won't do it, or maybe
like
they will.
DreamWorks and Pixar will both put out a bug story at the same time.
So it's kind of like that collective conscious idea.
Yeah.
Whether, I mean, either side of that you subscribe to, whether it's like we're all connected somehow or just our culture influences us all in certain ways, so we come up with similar ideas at similar times.
Yeah, and somehow, I mean, I don't know how it works, but somehow it's always that. It's like, I'll get this idea in my head, and I won't pursue it, but somebody else will catch the same idea and do something with it. You know, I mean, there's times that I had made these inventions in my head, because I'm not an inventor. But then maybe a year later, I'll like see this thing. It's just like, hey, I thought of that a year ago. Well, of course, they probably thought of it before then, but still, you know.
Yeah.
So stories happen that way. And I think one great example is I think Neil Gaiman had come up with a Harry Potter kind of story before J.K. Rowling had released Harry Potter, whatever, before she wrote. I don't know. And a lot of people were like,
she stole that.
Yeah, a lot of people were like asking him, shouldn't you sue her or something? He was like, why? She did a great job with that story.
Yeah.
But I think it comes from the fact that he understands, and a lot of people understand, that these ideas come to people simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's like the idea has its own consciousness and wants to be created. Well, it's like, hey, maybe Neil Gaiman didn't fulfill that idea's expectations.
Well,
like, I'm a big idea here. I want to be bigger than your story. So I'm going to go over here to this lady.
Yeah, and I think he specifically said something along the lines of great minds think alike. He was like, I mean, she's smart and talented. She could have come up with that too. Why would I be upset?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Well, and I mean, it needed to be Harry Potter. It's freaking awesome. It's such a good story. It's just like the world is a richer place because J.K. Rowling took the time.
I mean, there's enough room for both stories to happen, and I think it's
and they did
weird.
Completely different things.
Yeah, I mean, they went two different directions or whatever, but it's like there's no reason why these ideas can't be developed on different levels in different ways, It's
well,
like a story can be told more than one way,
That's what we were talking about earlier. You have to let go of the jealousy because jealousy is a part of scarcity thinking. It's this way of seeing the world as all these people have to be my followers, or say you're a visual artist, to be really envious of another visual artist that is in your same community and like they have a really good turnout at a show, and it's like, oh, to invest your energy and emotion into being envious of them rather than being happy and excited for them and being like, oh my gosh, people came to this art show. That's a good sign for our town, for our community, for our city. You know,
it's like if people will support them, then why wouldn't they support me? But
exactly.
But jealousy says they support them and not me.
There's not enough support for them and me, and that's just not true. You have to subscribe to an abundant way of thinking, an abundant way of seeing the world, an abundant way of seeing opportunity and love, and just everything that it's there in abundance. It's not a matter of lack, that we're all competing for that same little drop. And I think that a lot of jealousy stems out of that way of seeing things. We can't both have it. So,
Well, a lot of discouragement comes out of that too, of seeing someone else doing something and you're like, oh, well, I that was my idea and I can't ever be original. Everything's already taken. And how am I ever going to come up with an original idea? And you just look around me. I'm a big comic book fan. That's my world. So speak from that world. Yeah. Everything's been done. You can only do so much with a superhero theme that's so popular.
I tell you, if you come up with any random word and put man or girl at the end of it, like as a superhero name, Marvel has already copywritten that. It doesn't matter what it. It's like you could do Table Man, and Marvel has already copywritten that or something. I swear.
Well, and the big thing the past, I don't know, maybe 30 years even, but at least 10, 15 years has been, this is a new take on the superhero comic. This is a new take on superheroes in general in comic books. And it's like, that itself has become cliche and old and overdone. The fact that it's a new take on it is in itself an old cliche now.
How about you try an old take on something?
It's like, I'm so sick of it being a new take on this thing and that thing. We've seen that before. It's old. And it just speaks to the idea of everything's been done before. Every story's been told, but you have not told that story.
Exactly.
That's right.
And that's the encouragement, is that, sure, that story's been told, but it was not told in your voice. It was not told through your lens. It was not told through your life experience, which is why you should get out there and tell your damn story. Get over the fact that someone else told it already, because you're not going to tell it the same way.
Yeah.
And people need to hear your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of room for everyone to have some input to tell their version of that story.
So I had to pull up my favorite originality quote, because I'm kind of like a quote whore or something. I just got I don't know what is a quote. I won't even go there.
Quote Gollum?
I don't know. My precious grass. I kind of am. I'm a little redonka-dunk about it.
Sick Jude's knees.
I like that better than being a whore.
Okay. All right. So this is a really good originality quote. We've ventured. But originality, I mean, the desire for originality is related to jealousy, because they're really closely connected. So what C.S. Lewis said, and I think it's freaking brilliant, is even in literature and art, no man who bothers about originality will ever be original. Whereas if you simply try to tell the truth without caring twopence how often it has been told before, you will, 9 times out of 10, become original without ever having noticed it. C.S. Lewis.
That's cool.
Isn't that a good one?
Yeah,
I love it.
Good.
And she does talk about that in Big Magic, but I'm not going to tell you what she says, because that would suck. I shouldn't tell you her whole book.
I'm kind of getting tired of you talking about this.
Yeah.
Go read it yourself.
Okay, sorry.
This isn't an audiobook.
I know, exactly. I'm not going to do that because I want people to enjoy it. But anyway.
You built it up too much now.
I know. It's really not that good. You know. I'm terrible about that. I'm like big on hyperbole. It's the best thing
It's not amazing, but I suggest you should check it out, I guess. It's probably worth your time.
I do mess up movies for people, though, because they are convinced it's going to be the funniest thing they have ever seen in their entire life, and they're like, well, it wasn't all that. And it's all because I'm like, it was so hilarious.
I think you do have to be careful with who you're talking to when you're building
true.
things up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when that person's shy on.
That's right. If I'm a real, am I a realist? You think I'm a realist? That's probably true, though. It's like that really wasn't that good.
After seeing Star Wars with Tessa, I said, "Oh, I really want your dad to see this," and she specifically leaned over me and said, "Well, don't hype it up too much, or he won't like it." And I was like, "I know that for a fact. You don't have to tell me that."
So I went out to eat with a friend of ours.
Yes,
and we went to eat.
I just want to apologize to that friend right now.
I've already apologized.
Okay. Yeah.
Apology over.
Yeah, now it's just a story.
Okay.
So we went out to eat. We met somebody for Thai food, and he was just like, "This is the best food ever," and he just kept going on and on and on, and we were like eating this food at the time, you know. I was just like, enough. It is not the best food ever. It's just food. It's just regular food. And I just went off on him. I just was not in the mood. So horrible. That's me. That's me right there. Don't hype it up. I'm not really a realist, though. I'm a
You're
dreamer.
a dreamer.
I'm a dreamer.
I love it. I love it. That went so far off of jealousy, but we're glad you're here. We're glad you listened to the end.
Follow us down our rabbit holes.
That's right. And if
See where the treasure lies.
If you feel jealous, if you're feeling jealousy, take a tip from Julia Cameron, The Artist Way, and use it as a map. Look at it. If you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they got this, la la la, whatever. Then look and say, oh, I must want that. How do I go about making that happen in my life? Or how do I go about whatever? And don't just discount it. Must be nice. they get that, but not me, because I live in a scarce world.
But if you look at that situation and you're like, what can I do to get that for my life?
Exactly.
And you start looking at the steps it takes, and you're like, I don't even want to do that. Well, then stop being jealous that somebody else has it.
Yeah,
because sometimes it's not even something that you really want, because you're really not willing to work for it. You know?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway, sorry.
Well, no, that's a very good point. And yeah, let that stuff go. Start focusing on what you do really want and do it, because life is short and beautiful and you want to make the most of it. So make art. All right, you people? You hear me?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point. Find what you want to do and don't be jealous of others. Just do what you want to do. But on the flip side of that, encourage others, just like you want to be encouraged.
Yes.
Help others, pick them up. Instead of using people as a ladder to climb up for success, create the ladder and carry people with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's good.
Excellent. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage you people. Because we need encouraging.
Yeah. We're trying to make that ladder.
We are here to be your example. Go and do as we do.
Oh, God, no.
Went a little far.
Be our
Yeah,
disciples.
I think that's, oh, good
Always
Lord.
leave it to me
Don't
to go
listen
too far.
No, don't listen to them too. Okay. Listen to me. Okay, no.
Missy, the voice of reason.
Everything,
I don't want you to be my disciple.
everything Vinton said was good until we went weird and so disciple-y. Okay. So, okay. But thank you so much for taking time out of your life to listen to our craziness. And we hope that you were encouraged today. If you would like to look us up on the social medias, we are on Twitter as Hancock Creative. We are on Instagram, Hancock Creative Shop, Facebook, Hancock Creative Shop, and we would love to sell you some stuff on Etsy.com at Hancock Creative Shop.
Go buy the things.
Yeah. Thank you again for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Am I supposed to say bye now? That's not right.
Maybe.
You hype it up too much.